OpenAI has announced some significant updates to ChatGPT. There's kind of a bundle of these. A couple were on the live stream. There are a couple others we'll talk about too. But the kind of big ones here, one is the introduction of what they call connectors, which now lets teams pull data from tools like Google Drive, HubSpot, Dropbox, and others directly into ChatGPT. So you can bring in your files, your data, and tools into ChatGPT so it can search, synthesize, and respond using your actual content. So you could ask things like find last week's roadmap or summarize recent pull requests. And ChatGPT, if it's connected to the right apps, will go pull real answers for you. You can also use connectors with ChatGPT's existing deep research capability to do deep analysis across sources. Along with connectors on this live stream event this week, OpenAI also announced Record Mode, which is a meeting recorder that transcribes audio and helps generate follow-up docs through OpenAI's Canvas tool, all right within ChatGPT. Now, separate from these, but also important updates that we heard in the past week or so, OpenAI's Codex coding agent got internet access, meaning it can fetch live data and install packages while it autonomously does coding work following human prompts. Last but not least, and this is kind of a sneaky one because I tried it out this morning and was like pretty blown away actually, which is that OpenAI dropped a major upgrade to advanced voice in ChatGPT. They say, quote, it is offering significant enhancements in intonation and naturalness, making interactions feel more fluid and human-like, which is also something we're going to talk about in a related topic. So, Paul, first up, let's talk connectors and record mode. These are the biggest updates we got. They're the ones getting a ton of attention. Like from my perspective as a practitioner, I'm, at least on paper, thrilled about what these appear to enable, especially like the connector to HubSpot, which we rely heavily upon. Google Drive is great, all that stuff. But as much as I want to rush forward with using it, I kind of screech to a halt thinking about the privacy and security implications. So it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, every business might want to have a plan or some steps in place for these things before they turn them on.
Yeah, so I think this again just continues to build on this idea that OpenAI envisions ChatGPT as an operating system. They don't want you to leave ChatGPT. They want you to just connect to everything you have access to and to just talk to it right within ChatGPT. Now, I would imagine Google, which enables this connection to the Google Workspace and Google Drive. I guess to Google Drive in particular. They would rather you were doing that with Gemini, not ChatGPT, but that their technology enables that connection to happen. So, I think that OpenAI is just really going aggressively after this enterprise user. They announced, or it came out in a CNBC article, that they're up to 3 million paying business users. That's up from 2 million in February. So they're seeing some pretty significant growth. And the connectors seems to be a real key play to that. So as you highlighted, there are certainly benefits to it. You get faster insights, get access to my docs. So I, like you, as the user of the system, immediately was like, oh, that would be amazing. Like there's a
Right.
HubSpot connection, there's a Google Drive connection. We use all of these things. That's phenomenal that I could finally have access to this and have these summaries. And then my immediate response is, wait a second, as an admin, who has the ability to turn this on? And so Mike, like I put a note in our Zoom. I was like, do not connect this to
Right.
anything. Like, because before I was able to go in and verify who could actually enable the connection to Google Drive or to HubSpot, which again, we use both. I just was like, don't do it, like as to the team, because once you do it, it's like the data is now there. They're going to inventory all your data. And there's all these implications that I'll get to in a minute. But so as an admin, I went in to see like what are our controls as a ChatGPT team account. We don't have the enterprise account. And unfortunately, some of the security protocols are only available to the enterprise account,
Mhm.
not the team license. So I was going through trying to see like what can people actually do here and making sure that people aren't connecting things they shouldn't be connecting. So definitely there are benefits. We'll put a link to the help article because I don't think they put a blog post up about
They
this. Like,
not that I saw. I actually read through pretty in depth the help article because there
yeah.
was no other announcement
Yeah, it was
except
like
for like
there
on
was
the
an
heads.
X post,
Yeah.
and then some other people put like LinkedIn posts with some summaries. But yeah, there was a live stream, but no summary product release. Um, so I'll go through a couple of the questions from the help article. It says, "What does ChatGPT share with connected applications?" These are really important. Again, if you're an admin, they're extremely important. But if you're just a user, be aware if somehow you have access to turn these things on, you should default to ask before doing, I would say, whenever you're connecting to third party sources. And this holds true with anything, but like I'm just very aware of this with AI because we as a as an organization allow a lot of experimentation,
Yeah.
but we also have to always be super conscious of what are we connecting our data to. So in the question in OpenAI's help article, what does ChatGPT share with connected applications? It says when you enable a connector, ChatGPT can send and retrieve information from the connected app in order to find information relevant to your prompts and use them in its responses. Now, again, like seems kind of harmless when it's just read like that, but send and retrieve information. Like, obviously, it's going to go get stuff, but the question becomes, well, what is it doing with that information? So then the question is, how does ChatGPT use information from connected applications? It says when you enable a connection, ChatGPT will use information as context to help ChatGPT provide you with responses. But then I bolded this: if you have memory enabled in your settings, ChatGPT may remember relevant information accessed from connectors. So immediately you're like, hold on a second. So let's say we turn it on and then like 5 days later, it was like, okay, that was a bad idea. Let's turn that off. If you have memory turned on in your organization, in your team
Right.
enterprise EDU license, like it's in there. Like they now have that data. And if you connected it to your Google Drive or your CRM, like what exactly is it remembering? Becomes a pretty important question. Then it says, does OpenAI use information from connectors to train its models? This is a question I get all the time when we teach like the intro to AI class. It says for ChatGPT team, enterprise, and EDU customers, we do not use information access from connectors to train our modes. Now, that was team, enterprise, and EDU. If you're free, plus, or pro user, we may use information accessed from connectors to train our models if your improve the model for everyone setting is on. Which begs the question, everyone, to ask yourself, is improve the model for everyone turned on for my settings? If you don't know that, go into your settings and look. Because if it is enabled, you're allowing them to use more data than if it's not. Then it says in enterprise EDU and team workspaces, who can enable or disable connectors? This was a really important one for me. They say workspace owners and admins manage availability in settings and then connectors. So again, on a homework assignment, go find out who your admins are and make sure that they are aware not to turn this stuff on to run these experiments without permission and a plan. So my overall here, Mike, and if you have any thoughts here, please add them. The cautions: think about governance, understand the terms of use for both applications you're allowing these connections to happen between. Figure out who has the ability to turn on the connectors, figure out who will test and verify that permissions are adhered to correctly. This is like the big one for me.
Hmm.
So if I allow us to turn on Google Drive, which I would love, I mean, trust me, more than anybody, I want the ability to talk to my data on Google Drive. But how do I know that the permission levels are going to hold? So if I have like HR data, confidential information that only like a select few people in the organization have access to, how do I know that that's not going to end up in a chat and someone can't just literally say, send me the salary information for all the employees? Well, that lives in a document in
Right.
Google Drive. Like, how do I know that that's not going to leak? I don't. And so you're definitely very much trusting the two parties here, specifically OpenAI. And so I think you have to have someone own this from a governance perspective. Then you get into the data side, and we Remington Begg, who's a friend of ours and longtime HubSpot partner, he posted on LinkedIn, "Pause the hype, the hidden data dangers lurking in your new AI connections." Now, he was actually making an argument specifically for agencies. So let's say
Hmm.
you allow ChatGPT to have access to your Google Drive or your HubSpot data, whatever, and within there is client data that maybe is privileged. You're now giving data to a third party that maybe you don't even have permission to give within your terms of service for a client. And so it like creates all these layers of complexity of like understanding data. Where is it going? What protections and governance do you have over it? You could get into security questions. And then there's just the big one of like, does it even do what it says? So like I saw somebody, again, the HubSpot one I haven't tested. We have not connected it. But I did see a long time HubSpot partner that was like, it was just completely disappointing. Like, I was all
Mhm.
excited. I run my first deep research project, and it basically comes back to like, I can't do that. And it's like, well, what's the point then? Like, what? I just give you access to everything, and you can't even do the thing I want to do. So, just overall recommendations: make sure someone owns the piloting of the connectors. Um, Run systematic pilots. Like, have a plan. Don't just turn a connector on and give it access to data without a plan of what you're going to do with it. Update your AI policies if needed to control access and usage. And then, if you scale use internally, do so with training and personalized use cases. This is what we say all the time with Gen AI. So, I don't, Mike, do you have any cautions or recommendations that kind of jumped out to you that I didn't touch on?
I think overall what just struck me is the speed at which this stuff moves, which is not news to anybody, but it's why we harp on so much about having a policy in place. Because literally overnight, if you weren't paying attention, connectors come out. Someone in your organization could very well be like, oh, great, a new feature in ChatGPT. Turn them on. Even if you catch it later, you're still kind of cooked if it violates any kind of policies or restrictions you have. So, really buttoning up policies and procedures is really important.
Yeah, and they make it so easy. Like, the Google Drive one has been sitting in ChatGPT now for weeks. Like, every time I go in there, basically,
Hmm.
it's like, "Do you wanna connect to Google Drive?" And it seems so innocent, and we're all so used to this, like, give it access to my calendar, give it access to my email, like, we just have become, like, as Remington was saying, like, just push the button. Like, you just get
Yeah.
so used to it, and you kinda skim over what are you giving it access to. Well, in this case, it may be extremely important that you understand what you're giving it access to. So, yeah, just kind of a cool innovation. Like, this is gonna be important. It'll probably become, um, ubiquitous throughout enterprise. Like, you're gonna just connect your AI models to these outside sources. It's gonna enrich all these use cases, but, like, pump the brakes a little bit. Like, if you
Yeah.
could think about what you're doing before you do it. This is why AI councils are important. It's why generative AI policies are important. It's why you do this with a plan.
Just real quick to wrap this up here. Have you tried out the new voice mode at all?
So I did. I played around with it a little bit on Saturday, and like you, it's just sort of shocking. I think,
It like gave me goosebumps a little bit.
yeah, it's like, for years the labs steered away from making them too human-like, and I think wisely so. But we talked about this last year. I feel like they just sort of said, "Screw it, like,
Yep.
let's just go. This is where it's gonna go anyway. Let's get as human-like as possible," and it's happening in audio, it's happening in video, it's happening in images, and, um, I do think that there's a slippery slope here. It's inevitable. Like, I tend to err on the side of me complaining about this or like fighting against this does nothing.
Yeah.
They're going to do it. Everyone's going to do this. It is a stark contrast for how bad Surrey is. Like, I mean, it's gonna become even more painful to work with these ones that aren't like this once you get used to it.
Yeah.
So without, going in the next 20 minutes on the downsides of having truly human-like voice, if we just focus on, like, it's incredible, like, the technological advancements are insane, the implications to business, like, specifically think about, like, sales,
Hmm.
customer success, customer service, education, like, it has massive ramifications, and I'm convinced still that, like, what we're seeing is not the most advanced versions of this they have. I
Sure.
still think they're just kinda like, you know, iterative deployment is what they call it. Like, they're just releasing things to, like, gradually prepare society, but 1 to 2 years out, it's completely indistinguishable if you can still tell.